Well, the SignWriting Stack is the collection of technologies working together that make it possible to use SignWriting on desktops, tablets, and phones. Since we've been working with this for the past 10 years, we've been trying to get more and more technology working together, and right now we have a pretty solid stack. This is what it looks like, and it goes all the way from the bottom, from the computer and the operating system, all the way up to our formal SignWriting, the way that we name our signs. This presentation is going to talk about all the different levels that are involved here. Kind of broke up that SignWriting stack into 3 different levels. We have the bottom level, which is the fonts, browsers, and operating system. We have the middle layers, which is the JavaScript, the Cascading Style Sheets, and the SVG, common in web development. Then for the top layer, we have the formal SignWriting, which is the way that we name our strings and the name of the sign. We have the alphabet, the International SignWriting Alphabet 2010, and we have Regex, which is regular expressions, which is really the way that we built the system so that we could get really great processing on all these different environments. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about the flow of the system, how all these layers work together. Then I have a couple case studies of applications to show you. All right, so the bottom layer, we have the font technology, browser, and operating system. For the fonts, there are 2 TrueType fonts. Now, these are TrueType fonts that you can download and install on your computer. The fonts are really great because once the fonts are installed and running on your system, there's no extra server communication. You don't even need the server communication. A lot of before we had the TrueType fonts, we had the SignWriting icon server. And that icon server could create SVGs or it could create ping images. And in the actual application that you had, every time that you wanted to show a symbol, it would make a server request, and then that server would have to, or the computer would have to download that image. And it had a lot of extra chatter and a lot of extra information. Just because of the images on some of the American Sign Language Wikipedia pages, they had over 1 megabyte of images that were extra and needed. But now that we have TrueType fonts, if we use the fonts to display that, there won't be that extra megabyte or any extra communication because everything will be generated by the fonts. At the bottom of this page, you see 2 links. The first link is the actual GitHub project for the SignWriting 2010 fonts, and that has a bunch of the software on there, or actually has TrueType fonts and has some source images. But if you want to download and install, there's this second link, which is goes to the SignWriting 2010 JavaScript library. Give me a second here, I'm sorry. And that has download links. If you're on Windows or Linux or Mac, you can download the 2 fonts. You need both the fonts because SignWriting does use a 2-color font system. There is the color for the lines itself, and then there is the color for the fills. The 2 colors are important when symbols overlap, and I can show you an example of that later. For iOS, there's also something called a configuration profile. And that configuration profile contains both those 2 fonts inside that configuration profile. All right, modern browsers. With the TrueType fonts and then the JavaScript libraries, newer phones are better. It really should have enough power to run that. I have an old Android tablet, and that struggles a little bit. But other than that, all the newer phones, desktops, tablets, they should really not have that much trouble running any of the software. We've tested it on Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, Safari, Opera, and it really works well under pretty much every operating system on every browser. There's a couple situations, like I think Chrome on the iOS. Chrome on iOS. I'll have to go through and get an exact listing, but there's a testing suite right there you can check out, and you can just try the applications on your in the browser and see which one works. If you have trouble with a specific browser, just pick a different browser, and most likely it'll be just fine. For this, I put tomorrow's technology, which this isn't related to the stack directly, but it's really exciting. If you watch Guiller's presentation about the American Sign Language Wikipedia, he's using something called vertical writing mode. Vertical writing mode isn't supported everywhere. It's specifically non-Gecko-based browsers. So if you try to use the ASL Wikipedia with Firefox, it's not going to work right because that is that vertical writing mode. But in the future going forward, the vertical writing mode will be more supported. So when we write in vertical with SignWriting, it will be actually supported directly in the browser. Then there's another technology for tomorrow is two-dimensional fonts. It uses something called GPose for layout. Right now, our fonts only cover the symbols. It doesn't cover the two-dimensional layout. But with Edward Trocchini, he made a font system that actually does do the two-dimensional placement right in the font. I presented about that last year on presentation 19. Great technology. It's not ready yet. We probably will investigate it later more and see what we can do. But for now, we're doing great with all the browsers. All right, for the operating system, Windows, Linux, Android, iOS, OS X, they're all working. The big sticking point here is Android. I could not figure out a way, and I have not found a way to actually install the fonts directly into the operating system. For Windows, Linux, and OS X, you can just install the fonts because it's just fonts, and the operating systems install them just fine. For the iOS, that's that configuration profile that has those two fonts inside that configuration profile. But for Android, it will not install. Luckily, we have a CSS font face. And what with that is you tell it the name of the font and you tell it where to get the font. And with this case, we can tell it where the SignWriting 2010 font is and the SignWriting 2010 filling. And we'll actually download those fonts while you're waiting and install them. The fonts are pretty hefty, so if you can install them, you'll want to install them because it's about 9 megabytes for the main font and another 4 or 5 for the filling. But I've been using it, and if you're willing to settle with a couple-second delay, you don't really even need to worry about installing the fonts because the browser will install it for you. And for the rest of that session, the font's ready to go, and the pages are incredibly snappy. You don't have that extra server chatter that we did before with the server-side SVGs.
Yeah, that's amazing. Amazing feature.
All right, the middle layers. All right, we have our programming environment, our presentation styling, and our two-dimensional placement. Like I said, we don't have the two-dimensional placement in the font itself. That's what we're using the SVG for. All right, really, you can use any programming language for SignWriting. We're just preferring JavaScript without dependencies. You don't have to have jQuery or any other extra libraries. You're just dealing with plain JavaScript. And for online, that works really great. As we saw with Year-Rand's keyboard, JavaScript is really an excellent platform and programming language for SignWriting. If you're going to use JavaScript, may I suggest the SignWriting 2010 JavaScript library. It's a micro library. It's less than 6K when it's zipped. Nice and small, no dependencies, and it supports images. It supports searching and a lot more. You can see that there's the link for the actual project. But one thing I really like is this API page. And with this API page, you can really see what all the different functions you have. You can get random hands or random movement. And as soon as you get one of those symbols, you get all of this detailed information. And it shows you, here's the function that you would call, and here's what the function would return. It also has sign functions, and later we'll get to the query functions and the searching. All right, cascading style sheets. Before When we had the server-side images, if you wanted the image to be black and white, you would have to request that. If you wanted it white and black, you'd have to request a new image. If you wanted a bigger image, you'd have to request that. And it had a lot of extra chatter. Even if you're just selecting a symbol, and that symbol turned blue because you selected it, you'd have to go to the server, get that new image, bring it back down. Nowadays, we're just using CSS. As you can see in the bottom, we have the colorful signs, and there's an image of SignMaker with the white signs on the black background. And that is all done with just standard CSS. You set the fill color for text. And as you can see on the other side, there's the text shadow and animations. That's right here on this bottom link. Let me go there. All right, and here's those same. Let's see if I can make that a little bit bigger. And I just put some standard animations on the back of these signs. So this one just fades out the color. This one you get a little text effect. You can.
That's beautiful. Look at that! We got italics! Yay!
You can skew it to the side, or even rotate the text.
Oh my God! Oh, that's wonderful. Wow.
So that's all just standard CSS. Cascading Style Sheets, same as other scripts, other languages. You just use it and write your files that way.
Beautiful. Very beautiful. Bravo.
Thank you. I like that too. My favorite is that fade out effect where.
Yeah, that one. Isn't that terrific? Yes. Yes. Oh wow! Look at that. Huh. You can make such artwork.
Two-dimensional placement. All right. The fonts that we have just show the symbols, and they don't do anything with the two-dimensional arrangement. For that, we have SVG, which is Scalar Vector Graphics. It's widely supported. It's available in almost any environment, online or on the programming desktops or anything like that. Has a lot of variety of options, and the two-dimensional placement is supported with Cartesian coordinates. Formal SignWriting is based on Cartesian coordinates, and you can see the same coordinates in the FSW strings later I'll show you, and in the actual SVG. If you look at this over the SVG in the bottom right of this slide, you can see we have G, which is group, transform, which says move it somewhere, because we're translating it, and we translate it to this coordinate. Then we actually have to put two glyphs at that coordinate for each symbol, because we have the fill, which is that solid palm facing, and we have the line, which is the outside of that symbol. And when the symbols are combined with the line on top of the fill, we get that two-color font, and that way we can overlap symbols. SVG, very nice. All right, we also have the top of the stack. That deals with the formal SignWriting. That's when we actually name our signs using a string. We have our alphabet, the ISWA 2010, and we have universal processing with regular expressions. The regular expressions that we use, basically anywhere that you use regular expressions, you can use our regular expressions, because we're not doing anything fancy. It's just basic regular expression text processing. All right, formal SignWriting. I love formal SignWriting. According to Wikipedia, in mathematics, computer science, and linguistics, a formal language is a set of strings of symbols that may be constrained by rules that are specific to it. We have rules, and I'll get to those shortly. Well, the first one is that signs are a word, and they're split between time and space. When we write our signs, we don't write one symbol after the next. Such as in when you write cat, you write C, then you write A, then you write T. When we write our signs, we don't have a specific order. We take this symbol and we put it at this coordinate. We take this symbol, we put it at this coordinate. And so that is the space element, where every symbol has a Cartesian two-dimensional coordinate. The only thing is you can't sort two-dimensional space with a one-dimensional, in one dimension. You have to have a reason why one sign comes before the next. And what we have for that is we have the time element of every sign name. And the time element is just a sequential list of symbols saying that when you're going to sort it, here's the order that the symbols matter in. Time and space is divided, and again, I'll show that to you in a little bit. If you want to read more about formal SignWriting, I have a link at the bottom of this page to the Internet draft Slevinski SignWriting text, and that will give you a lot more detailed information on formal SignWriting. The alphabet, that has been stable since October 20, 2010. It's really funny to think of, me and Val, how much time we've spent looking at these symbols and reorganizing the symbol sets and doing conversions from the INWA 2004 to the ISWA 2008.
Right.
And then I said, hey, Val, let's do a 2010.
I thought I was going to, And you know, while we're mentioning that, I'd like to point out to everybody that the three of us, Adam, Steve, and I, are kind of like a trio. We work together all the time. And let me explain that Adam isn't just a wonderful signer and a teacher of ASL and writing ASL in the ASL Wikipedia. Adam has also done a lot of graphics. And for example, he did his photos of his hands and created a book, but he also did SVG graphics. And that SVG design that Adam did of every single symbol of the ISWA 2010, which was what, 38,000 or some, goodness gracious, how many, I don't know.
37,811.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah. Imagine everybody doing the actual line part of it for, it was in Inkscape or one of these programs, and at the time Adam was here between, he was at Gallaudet University at the time, I believe, and he was here one summer between the school years, and he spent every single waking hour, if not even sleeping hours, doing that Inkscape SVG line drawings. And then when he was all done, we gave it to Steve, and then Steve had to work with it and work with it until finally we ended up with SVG fonts that are SVG writing system. I can't quite explain it, but anyway, the point is I wanted you guys to know that Adam and Steve were like a team in the sense that the SVG was finalized together, and everybody had a different part to the work. And then that led to the TrueType fonts. Isn't that right, Steve?
Yes, it did.
Yeah. So, Adam, you also helped us lay a foundation, and we worked together, as do so many other people with us all over the world. And so many of the projects here at the Symposium have also influenced what we're doing today. So let's keep working together. Okay, Adam, excuse me, Steve, please go ahead. The alphabet. Ooh.
Yeah, it's an ordered collection of visually iconic symbols that exist in a layered hierarchy.
Wow.
With a layered hierarchy, we have 7 categories, 30 groups, 652 base symbols. They're all in a specific order, and that ordering is very important for sorting. Yeah, the symbols represent meaning, and we combine the symbols in 2-dimensional arrangements. A couple links on this page where I talk about the ISWA 2010 in that second link, again in the draft Slevinski SignWriting text, and on the movementwriting.org symbol bank, Valerie has a lot of great information and links about the ISWA 2010. Universal processing. This is regular expressions. Love regular expressions. A regular expression is used to examine text and identify strings that match a stated pattern. A regular expression is written in a concise and flexible formal language.
I'm not seeing the slide. Does that make sense? Here we go. I'm seeing it now. Sorry.
Yeah, no. It's a way to describe what a string should look like with another string. It can be very dense and cryptic. If you've ever heard of Perl, Perl is based on regular expressions, and it can be very succinct, very powerful. Yeah, like I said, I got some more stuff on that too. Because formal SignWriting, it's a heuristic model. I initially created the formal SignWriting part in 2008, and I based it on the idea of processing with regular expressions. After several generations of refactoring the data, the model has been optimized for common usage and processing. The text model has been stable since January 12th, 2012. Before formal signwriting, there was something called binary signwriting and Cartesian signwriting, but right now, and going forward, formal signwriting is the way that it goes. Formal signwriting, it's defined with regular expressions, so how exactly what a formal signwriting string looks like it's defined with that. Query strings are used to search formal signwriting. Query strings and formal signwriting are very similar. And with query strings, you can get some really fine detail into what type of searching that you're doing. Yeah, formal signwriting, the strings, they can actually be transformed into a variety of query strings. You can say, I just want to find signs that have the same symbols, or I want to find signs that have the same symbols, but I don't care about the rotation or the fill, or I want signs that appear in this part of the dictionary based on their sign spelling sequence. And finally, query strings. After you have the query string, they get transformed into regular expressions, and you get about 15 times more regular expression than you put in query string. I explained query strings in the draft Slevinski SignWriting Text section 3. And if you just want to read up on regular expressions themselves, I put the Wikipedia.
Good.
That is the formal SignWriting stack. There's a lot we could talk about each layer, but this is just an overview of all the different layers that we have.
Mm-hmm.
The flow of the system, nice complicated flow of the system.
Well, it flows.
Yeah, the main heart of the system is formal signwriting, query strings, and regular expressions, where they can be transformed one to the other. You take a formal signwriting string and you say, well, I want to search for this part of it, and that gives you a query string. Then you take that query string and say, well, I need the actual regular expression to do the searching, and that query string is transformed into a regular expression. And then you take your regular expression and you say, well, I want to search this block of text, and that regular expression will show you what formal signwriting signs that it found. Let's see. Also, at the top of this, we have formal signwriting can be transformed into SVG, and the SVG that we create is about 15 times the size of the formal signwriting strings. It contains the same information, but it's formatted in SVG specifically to display our two-dimensional sign image. Inside of our SVG, we have the TrueType fonts, because the TrueType fonts show us our symbols, and the SVG gives us our two-dimensional arrangement. Now, CSS, that can work on the TrueType fonts, or it can work on the SVG, as you saw in setting the different colors or doing the animations. Inside, when we use the TrueType fonts, we have 4 possibilities, but I just showed 2 right here. When we're showing, when we want to show a symbol, we can use the private use area plain 16, and that is a single character for any symbol in the alphabet that we have. If you want to use the new Unicode 8 specification, rather than every character having a single every symbol having a single character, there's going to be 1 to 3 characters of Unicode 8 to show a symbol. That requires something called ligatures, and adds a little bit of size to the SVG, because you have to tell it that yes, it should use the ligatures. That's all working really nice. We have, off of the formal signwriting again, we have something called private use area plain 15. And that is about twice the size of a formal signwriting string. The thing is, it's all entirely in Unicode characters. That's available on plain 15. And we have a graphite font for that. This is the Eduardo Trapini's font that I did in presentation 19. And that does the Cartesian coordinates inside the actual font itself with the G pose. All right, we're going to have a couple case studies, but before we get into that, I know I've been going kind of quick. It's a little bit complicated and detailed. Do you guys have any questions?
Adam, do you have any questions?
Not any that I can think of at the moment. I mean, it all does make sense. It's just I remember working on the SVG, so that.
That's a story in its own right, isn't it, Adam? And
Yeah.
after you did all the faces with a certain thickness of line for the circle, we all decided together they needed to be thinner. I believe that's what happened. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
So then you had to go back in and redo all the circles. Oh, unbelievable. But we know that it's working because we now have TrueType based on that. And then Steve also had to work with it as well to make it function. So it's a wonderful collaboration. Well, I do know that some people have asked me, what is the difference between such and such a TrueType font and our TrueType fonts? And I think people may not realize there are differences. For example, I know Stefan has beautiful TrueType fonts that he himself has hand-created, hand-designed within a program called Fontographer, or another program like that. Maybe it's called Font Lab, I'm not sure. But the point is, they were created differently. They were like just an individual symbol here and there to work with and create graphics with. And Stefan, they're gorgeous. But they're not the same as these TrueType fonts that Steve has done. First of all, the TrueType fonts that Steve has done actually incorporates all 37,000, how many symbols? I can't remember.
37,811.
And he's done this with exactly 2 fonts instead of, can you imagine if you just did them in the casual way with the Font Lab or Fontographer program, you would probably have 37,000 different files or fonts almost, you know. And so in this way, you've been able to get it down to 2. And the only reason there are 2 and not 1 is that we sometimes have to have the white for a fill so that we can place something on top of something else. Isn't that right? So that's like a 2-color font. So the TrueType fonts for SignWriting are really quite unique. Can you explain what the difference is, Steve? Is there a name for the different kinds of TrueType fonts? I mean,
it really is just a standard TrueType font. We do have OpenType features. And
right.
Is the ligatures. Those are something that have been added on top of the TrueType font. But
I think you didn't use any software like FontLab or Fontographer, which, by the way, are wonderful programs, but you didn't use those. You did it in another way, didn't you?
Yeah, the 2010 fonts were created with the SignWriting 2010 tools. It's a separate project. I did Python scripting with FontForge.
Wow.
That project's on GitHub as well. You can take a look at that.
Oh, that's exciting. You have placed your source code, essentially, on GitHub for other people to use, for those who are software developers. That's very important. But I also wanted just to make a layperson's comment. As you know, the next presentation Steve is going to give is, I believe, on July 23rd, which is the day after tomorrow. It's Thursday. And it's session 3 as well. And it's called The Use of and Structure of SignMaker 2015. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that SignMaker 2015 is a new program. And that new program can be used on an iPhone or an Android phone or a pad, yeah, like Adam's phone. There we go. I should have had the iPad with me to show you guys an iPad. But anyway, and also obviously can be used on computers. And when you go there, the TrueType fonts just automatically install for us now. Somehow you got that to work, Steve. I know you just mentioned it, but that auto-install, even though it may not be the best way to go, maybe it's better to install them yourselves, by yourself earlier on. Nonetheless, for people who are new to this, it is so cool that you got it so that the fonts just automatically install when you start using it. Even if you do have to wait a minute, that's not very long. You said how much is the wait? Not very long, right?
No, it's a minute.
A minute, wow. I mean, boy, is that going to hurt us. So I think the more you do something like that, people will not feel like the fonts are even having to be installed. They'll get so spoiled. They'll just automatically use it on different web pages. Or anyway, I just thought everyone should know that if you haven't installed it yet, you still can use software using it. So. Now you better start talking because you have another half hour and we want to hear about this beautiful screen. It says Case Study 1.
Case Study 1. All right. What can you do with this stack? Well, the SignWriting 2010 JavaScript library is in part of that stack. That is the JavaScript part. And this is the project that includes all these functions. So if you want to use the TrueType fonts in SignWriting, this JavaScript library will have all of the stuff that you need. Let's see, code breakdown is kind of fun for this project. If you see, for testing, I'm using Mocha and Chai for the testing, and defining the testing in the JavaScript files, and that's about 630 kilobytes of data. That's all involved with that testing. Then we get down to the assets, like that logo, the red umbrella with the sign for sign underneath it.
Yeah.
The internet draft. I actually have a HTML version of the internet draft included with this project. That comes in about 140K. Interestingly, I tried to take a shortcut, so I used the Bootstrap CSS. Bootstrap just gives you buttons that look similar or look the same. It gives you the header at the top and gives you some other things. That actually came in at 90 kilobytes. That's pretty heavy. The main pages, the main index page, the guide page, and the API page. On the API, you can actually check out the functions and how they work. All three of those pages only came up to about 50 kilobytes. And the last part, that little red blip on the code breakdown, that is the library sw10.min.js. That is the only file that you actually need from this project if you're not going to be doing development. That little 10K file, about 6K when it's zipped. I think actually, sorry, 20K before you zip it. Once you zip it, it's 6 kilobytes. Nice small file that gives you all the functionality. And here's the link. This actually goes to the GitHub pages. Shrink that down a little bit. And you have all the functionality that you want. You can go to the guide, you can check out the API, you can run some tests. 52 passed. Symbol sizing takes a lot longer because there's 37,811 different symbols you have to do the sizing on. Or you can go to the GitHub project itself. And if you go to the GitHub project, you can see all the files and the code breakdown, and that's actually in the JavaScript library. Let's see. Very important, the library. Once you take that library, you can do amazing things with it. Here is the SignWriting character viewer. And the character viewer basically does what it says it does. It views the characters. And you can check out all the different symbols using the different encoding methods that we have. Take a look down at the code breakdown. The entire SignWriting character viewer is all contained in a single file that's about 110 kilobytes for the entire project. The majority of the project is actually in this blue messages, which is user interface and names. And that's about 60 kilobytes of data. And this symbol is called this. In Unicode 8, it's called this. And so every symbol, or every base symbol, has a name. Let's see, the green, these are the JavaScript libraries that I included. And there are about 40 kilobytes of JavaScript libraries. There's that SignWriting 2010 JavaScript library I just talked about, foundational library to use. And I also use something called Mithril.js. Mithril.js is, if you've heard of Angular, or there's a couple other, it's basically a framework for defining how a model looks, and it will automatically make your web pages follow that model. It's a great little library, it does amazing things. And then the bottom, to get this page to work, the only HTML, JavaScript, and CSS that I had to write came in at about 10 kilobytes. So to get this page to up and running, not that much work. Let's go ahead and go to that link and take a look at it. And as soon as you go there, you'll see this nice, great big table. And it has all of the symbols that you could want to see. And if you want to look at one of the more specific ones, you can click on the symbol, and you'll get all the fills and the rotations. At the top, we have the the names, and we can just scroll through these pages. And we can see the next symbol and the next symbol. And scroll through it that way. At the top here, you can see that you can, well, let's see this page with symbol keys. And you'll see that we have that symbol key start compared to the Unicode 8, which has a different start, the U plus 1D80X. If you wanted to see how it looked on plain 15, and this is what that graphite font was using. And the graphite font with the plain 15 can actually do that two-dimensional placement within the font itself. Or the plain 16. I prefer using plain 16 with the font because we can just, every symbol has its own unique code point on plain 16. So when we want to see a symbol, we just give it one character, and that one character will display without us having to tell the browser, make sure that you display ligatures. Because when you deal with more than one character to see a symbol, you have to use ligatures, and that's what symbol keys uses. The Unicode 8 uses ligatures, and so does plain 15 that uses ligatures as well. Kind of a neat feature of this code viewer. Let me go to all right. Go ahead and click on a symbol to get to this grid right here. If you want this symbol right here, you just hover over the symbol, and it will give you the symbol key and a tooltip. A nice feature is you can double-click on any square, and after you double-click, it will actually select the name of that symbol. So whenever, let's see, up here, double-click, do a right-click, and it says search Google for S12933, or we can just copy that. And now we have the name of that symbol and the name of symbol as a symbol key. The symbol keys are very important because if you wanted to search for the symbol, get the symbol key name, throw a capital Q in front of it, you have a query string that you can use in SignMaker. Let's see. All right. SignWriting character viewer, very fun. And SignMaker. All right, SignMaker is the new editor. It has a ton of features, doesn't have that large of a code base, and I will be talking about this on Thursday, but I'm going to go through it a little bit right now. Again, configuration data is most of it, and that is the user interface. I believe we have 7 different spoken languages that the user interface can be in, and by far that's the majority of the code. Support libraries, that's about 52K, something like that. We have 20K for the SignWriting 2010 library. We have another 20K for Mithril. There's another 15 for a drag and drop library. But again, we're getting all of those support libraries for pretty small, just above 50K. When you consider that the Bootstrap CSS that I had before, that was 90K, and that's just to make buttons look good. We got a lot of good functionality for that 50-some K.
Definitely.
And then for the actual custom HTML that I had to write, and JavaScript and Cascading Style Sheets to get this all to work, that came at under about 60K. So pretty economical, not overboard, especially when you can have the fonts already downloaded. You get yeah, it's a great.
It's a very powerful program. It's wonderful. This is called SignMaker, everybody.
And you can go to the link on the page, and that Val made a nice index page for us. I'm going to scroll down and go to the American Sign Language. And one thing that's really great about the SignMaker when you load it up, all right, it is taking the dictionaries from SignPuddle Online and making those available to you right here. Let's see. I'm actually going to go back here.
Yeah, the character viewer, by the way, is an amazing development. It just happened recently. You just posted this online about 2 weeks ago, I think. And the character viewer is so useful. I'm just thrilled with it, and I think people should try it. If you go to signbank.org, just to the front page of signbank.org, up at the top, you'll see that there are places to click, different links, and you'll find the SignWriting character viewer is right there as well. So try it sometime. You'll be amazed. It's a great thing, Steve. Thank you for creating it. So go ahead.
Let's see. I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to find the single contact star.
Okay.
Let's do a double contact star. That should be fun. All right. So here's the contact star. Say I wanted to look for this. I would double click on it since I'm in the symbol keys. After I double click and right click, I can copy, and I actually copied that symbol key name. Now if I go to SignMaker, I go to the top left, and all I have to do is push a capital Q, and if I paste that symbol key, all of a sudden there we go. All the signs that it shows me are signs that use the double contact star.
That's amazing.
So that right there is just a basic query string where it's just the Q followed by a symbol key. Now if you saw, let me go back here. If you saw, there's other rotations and other fills because we have the double contact, diagonal, triple contact. An easy way to modify a symbol key is to take those last 2 digits off of it, which stand for the fill and the rotation, and you just put the letter U. U stands for unknown. I don't know what the rotation is. I don't know what the fill is. And we can scroll through. Let's see if we find something with a triple or a... Oh, there it was right there. If you can see, it found that contact, but that contact symbol is stacked, where the symbol key that we took was the horizontal. So,
well, there are other ways to search as well. So if anybody finds that difficult because it looks like computerese, or computer language of some kind, there are so many ways to search with SignMaker. That's just one of many. But I think that's very powerful, Steve. You can go into the SignWriting character viewer, obviously do what you said, and copy the code number, the number for that symbol, and then search for it in SignMaker. 2 different programs, 2 different places, and you can search. It's very cool. I didn't know anything like that.
Yeah, if you want to do it an easier way, let's find signs with single contact. You just drag and drop the single contact into there, and you go to the search tab, and you say find signs that have the same symbol. And there you get signs that have the contact star.
Good.
Like that one, I want to see ones that have the double contact star. You put the double, and you say, well, find ones that have the same symbol. You don't know about the fill and rotation. Well, give me signs with the same base symbol, and that will include like this, that vertical stacking.
Right. Right. Very easy to use. It's a great program, and I've used it on my iPad.
I was talking about CSS earlier, and this is really one of my favorites. Right now, this is the colorful screen. If you don't like the color, well, how about just black on white? And you can just take out with the CSS. But the one that I really like is, well, let's see white on black. And as you can see, we can just go from back and forth.
Wow.
And that just uses that TrueType font, and it automatically says, okay, well, the lines should be white and the fills should be black. And it doesn't have to request a new server-side image. It just automatically changes the text just like they do in any other script.
That's so exciting because there's some people who have limited eyesight, and sometimes the white on black is very useful, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good.
Let's see. Let me show one last thing real quick. And this was about that 2-color font. Let's zoom in a little bit. All right.
Very nice.
The symbol right here. And I'm going to copy that. Go over here, and I will mirror that. All right, if you go down here, you can see that the fill of this symbol is covering the fill of this symbol over here.
Yes.
And if you don't want that symbol on top, you want the other one on top, you click the symbol that's underneath, and you just say place over. and then that symbol will be shown on top. Overlap and the two-color font, very important for sign writing, because if you don't have that second color, it really obscures the detail and it really muddles the sign.
Yes, yes, it's necessary. Very beautifully done.
Mm-hmm. And you can do additional things, like change it to green for the line, make it really big.
Wow.
And you can see that. Let's see, yeah. So that pretty much covers all the SignWriting stack. Has all those pieces that all work together. It's being extended beyond the stack with lots of great things.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know that, Steve, thank you for the presentation. And do you remember we did a rehearsal with another presenter who's going to be presenting, let's see, on day 3, July 23rd, which is Thursday, right before your presentation, Steve, on that day. Your session 3, but session 2 is from Brazil, and there's a computer software developer named Rony Fagundes de Brito, and I surely hope I pronounced the name correctly. Anyway, Rony was in the rehearsal with us, and I was really excited when he mentioned to us in the rehearsal that the software they're developing in Brazil in this particular presentation, they're excited to use the SignWriting Stack. He thought that presentation would be very useful to help him with their software development in Brazil. So for those who are curious what this all means, who are not software developers, it means that other software developers learn from each other. And they see, oh, Steve is doing this, I can base it on that. And of course, we're going to see their work, and I'm sure that will inspire us. And so it's an ongoing sharing of information that's extremely important, and that's what I think is needed for all of our software development now. It needs to be web-based as well as desktop. Isn't that true? It needs both, because the programs that are limited to just the desktop are not being used very much. And the programs that are just web-based and not able to be on your iPhone or iPad or Android or whatever, they're also very limited. We can't just have the web, because sometimes people need to walk around with their phones, right? So I think you have given people the foundation to do all of that. Isn't that right?
Yes.
And it hasn't exactly been a small job. I want you all to know I've seen Steve struggle with all of this. It's been a really long, hard job. The TrueType font development was not a small, wasn't that at least 9 months of software development?
That was pretty solid work for a while, yeah.
Yes, it was. Well, do you have any questions, Adam?
I don't.
Have you been using SignMaker on your iPhone at all? Adam?
I have used it a couple of times. I mean, part of it is just because I'm on a older iPhone. It's 4S, so it's smaller than the more modern ones they have now. I think iPhone 6 they have, which is about 6 inches or so it's a little bit larger. So on my screen it is kind of small.
Yes.
But
yeah.
I use SignWriting so well that it doesn't bother me that it's small. Just like if I was to type, to see words written small, it doesn't bother me as much as if somebody who's just learning to type with English, they'd be going, what does that say?
Yeah, exactly. If you're new to SignWriting, my goodness, the iPhone or the Android phones are just plain old too small. In fact, for me, I just can't with the phones. I can't see well enough. I don't think I'm too old. So I like the iPad or a tablet or a computer myself. But that doesn't mean that I think it's great that we have everything available to people. And I also think you should know, Steve, that on Facebook, yeah, look at that. Isn't that something else? That's so beautiful. I wanted you to know that one day I posted information about SignMaker 2015 to people on Facebook. I have a very minor but very fun Facebook following, and I posted it, I believe, on a list about SignWriting in Brazil. And I got the most wonderful message back from somebody who had downloaded the software and is using it and was so excited about it. I wanted you to know that you have people who are using the program even though it's brand new. So I want to thank you for creating this kind of new excitement, because SignPuddle Online someday will be coordinated with it. Isn't that right?
Yes.
So what are your plans? You're planning to update SignPuddle Online to do some of the new TrueType fonts. Isn't that right?
Yes, after SignMaker, after the presentation, after the symposium, I'll be working on sign text, and that will be where SignMaker is focused just on single sign. Sign text will be focused on writing complete texts, and that right there will give me the pieces that I need to make the new SignPuddle, because SignPuddle will be able to do individual signs, and it'll be able to do complete sentences in text as well, and all the new technologies in development will be funneled into that, and it really does make the development a lot easier, a lot quicker, and a lot more fun.
Right, and to explain to everybody so they understand it, SignPuddle Online is working right now. It's just version 2.0, and it's a beautiful program, and a lot of people are using it every day. It's the most used, it seems, and it's also being used as the background for the Delegs editor software and other programs. So it continues to be the foundation that it is. However, the new SignMaker 2015 version is using TrueType fonts. That's the difference. It's got a different technology behind it. And that's what Steve is talking about, this SignWriting Stack, is that new technology. Isn't that right, Steve?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what's going to be applied to the older software later. Right now, I guess the next project, as you said, is to get signed text, namely real literature, real writing of literature, actually in your iPhone or phone or Android or tablet. Can you imagine actually doing literature like sentences and stories and Bible passages with TrueType fonts? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know whether people grasp that, but that's amazing. That's a big change for us, because in the past, all the literature in SignPuddle Online at the moment is done with the SVG and with another way of doing things. So that change is coming slowly, but very well done. I think, we only have around 5 more minutes, and I would like to, do you want to say anything, Adam? Any questions?
I was just going to say it would be interesting to do a Wikipedia article.
Yes.
This.
Yeah, you need signed text for that, don't you, Steve?
No, the keyboard.
Yeah, Yair Rand's keyboard. Yeah. Can you do that on the Wikipedia? Can you do that on the iPhone?
I haven't tried that on my phone. I'll have to see what it looks like on my phone now that we have it there. We'll see what it looks like.
What a new idea. We could use the Yair Rand SignWriting keyboard on tablets and phones as well.
Yeah, for tablets and phones, we do get into the problem where the screen size is really an issue. If you can go to my other screen real quick, you can see that I have the SignMaker up there, and I made it a responsive website. So whatever size you make the browser, that is the size that the screen.
That's really beautiful. In other words, it's programmed so the window remains within the size of the. In other words, inside there you've got the program. Is that what you're trying to say?
Right. So if that's what it would look like on a small screen, you'd want to make the signs in the.
Oh, there's a small screen for you. I see. Yeah, of course. Well, it is small, and I did have trouble seeing it on a phone, actually. I'm being honest about that. So that's why I went to a tablet, because it wasn't as small. And there were other things, like I couldn't get my fat finger to point to a symbol.
Yeah, the tablets work pretty nice. This is the iPad mini. It's a pretty good size for using the SignMaker. The phones are a bit small. The thing to realize is that the underlying technologies in that SignWriting Stack is working on the phones. The user interface that I made is on top of all of that. So all you need to do is build a different interface that's on top of that same stack, and that same stack you'll be able to use as just building on top. And going forward, it will become a lot easier, I believe, on the phones and tablets. And if anybody else wants to get involved, they have some great tools so they can hit the ground running and they can try out their own ideas.